How's it going, everybody? It's Rutech. Today we're talking about the best laptops you can get for $1,000. I went ahead and looked through dozens of different laptops and narrowed it down to these three. As expected, each one has its own pros and cons, but we'll be going over those. So let's get straight into it, but first, this quick message.
DigitalChillMart.com is the best place to get cheap Windows 10 and 11 license keys. If you're building a PC or have built one, but you're still running an unactivated version of Windows, Digital Chill Mart has you covered. Simply go to the front page of their website, scroll down a bit, and you'll find Windows 10 and 11 for great prices. And the prices get better. I have a coupon code for you guys to use. Type in RUTECH right here, and it'll be instantly applied. Link for DigitalChillMart.com will be in my description. All right, let's get started. The first laptop I want to talk about is the laptop that gives you the best gaming performance out of these three, which is the MSI Pulse GL66. Simple fact of the matter with this laptop is it's the best for your price to performance ratio. You're getting an RTX 3070, which is the highest performing graphics card you'll find for a $1,000 laptop. Let's talk about what performance you should expect. It's a 3070, so you can expect to run all modern games at 1080p with ultra settings, no problem, even if you're trying to achieve competitive frame rates like 100 FPS and above. For example, Red Dead Redemption 2 at 1080p ultra settings averages 80 FPS. A pretty demanding game, by the way. Warzone at 1440p with high settings will average 99 FPS. Very impressive. And as you'd expect, Fortnite, which isn't super demanding, can also run at high frame rates as it hits an average of 115 FPS at 1440p resolution with high settings. Long story short, you'll be able to run all modern and upcoming games at high graphics settings, no problems. Now let's take a look at the rest of the laptop beyond just the graphics card and gaming performance. It has a 1080p 15.6 inch screen that runs at 144 Hz, which is expected for a laptop of this caliber. It also has 16 gigs of RAM running at 3200 MHz, which again is pretty standard for this price point and also is enough for modern gaming. There also is a 512GB SSD, which for most people is enough storage for a decently sized game library, but if it isn't enough, luckily there is an expansion M2 slot. Now let's take a look at the CPU, the i7-12700H. It may sound a little weird at first because you may be thinking, Intel is now shipping out 14th gen laptops, why is this using a 12th gen? But in all honesty, you don't need that much CPU power for gaming. The 12700H will do just fine. As a matter of fact, perfect paired with the 3070. And even as a standalone, the 12700H is a great, reliable processor for all of their tasks you may be doing with this laptop. Now let's look at the design. This is certainly a very outdated look, and as a matter of fact, MSI has been using this laptop chassis look for many years now. It would be really nice to see a refresh. I definitely think this laptop is one of the ugliest in this price range. MSI needs to step it up in that department. And lastly, for ports, it has two USB-A, one USB-C, an HDMI out, and an Ethernet port. Pretty good I/O. I give this laptop a 7.5 out of 10. Although it may have an outdated old look to it, it honestly makes up for it in other departments like a stacked I/O, very strong GPU-CPU combination, but it does have a lackluster battery life. Now let's move on to the middleman of these three laptops, being the HP Victus. This newer laptop rocks the 4060 with 8GB of VRAM paired with the Intel i5-12500H. This won't necessarily get you as many frames as the previous laptop, but it certainly still puts up some good figures. For example, Modern Warfare 3 at max settings at 1080p will average you at 80 FPS, but this is without DLSS, so you can expect a huge boost in frames if you turn that on. Cyberpunk 2077 will run at 1080p Ultra at an average of 71 FPS, but again, this is without DLSS, so averaging significantly more frames is achievable. For storage, you have one entire terabyte, so you'll certainly not ever have to worry about running out of space unless you have a truly gargantuan game library. And for memory, there's 32GB, which is a lot and more than you'll probably need, but is still nice for future-proofing reasons. Or maybe you're a video editor and need that extra memory space. I had a laptop with 16 gigs and I would use the laptop for editing, and before I knew it, I was upgrading the memory, so bear that in mind. I feel like the biggest downside of this laptop is the i5-12500H. Don't get me wrong, it will suffice perfectly fine with modern gaming, but CPU intensive tasks may not be its forte as you could imagine. How about the screen? Similarly to the GL66, it has a 1080p display that runs at 144 Hz. 1080p, in my opinion, is hard to be upset about considering the display size is 15.6 inches, so you're getting a lot of pixels per inch. For ports, it has one USB-C, an Ethernet port, a USB-A, an HDMI out, and an SD card reader. Not bad, although only one USB Type-A does kind of suck. And lastly, let's take a look at the overall design. I think it's a really good looking laptop with a modern looking design. It could certainly be mistaken for a workstation laptop as opposed to a gaming laptop given its minimalistic look and lack of flashy colors, which I am personally a fan of. It also does not have a hideous gaming themed font on the keyboard, but rather gives you a standard looking font. I like that. And the keyboard is backlit, which is never a bad thing. I give this laptop also a 7.5 out of 10 as it gives you good performance, a nice design, and lots of memory and storage, but does leave out some key things like a second USB-A port and a higher performance CPU. And last but certainly not least, we have the ASUS ROG Zephyrus, which is the laptop I'd go for if I was looking for a premium experience. Now, what do I really mean by that? Well, it's like how you feel when you're using a MacBook, for example. Metal chassis, very solid build, long-lasting battery, you know it's not going to die on you in 2 years, and of course, super reputable, although it doesn't typically have the price to performance ratio you would get with most Windows systems. I would say this laptop is the Windows gaming parallel for that. This laptop is very premium as it has great battery life, metal chassis, among other luxurious features, but doesn't quite keep up in the performance department. So let's address that elephant in the room, being the CPU and GPU combo that won't exactly give you the performance you'll find with the previous two laptops. It has an RTX 3060 8GB, which yes, is a good GPU, but certainly falls behind performance-wise when you look at other options in this price range. To be completely clear though, it is still quite the powerhouse, as you'll definitely be able to game in 1080p to your heart's content with great competitive frame rates at high settings with modern games. I would probably stay away from 1440p though, unless you're playing something not too demanding. And of course, exceptions being well-optimized games like the newest Call of Duties. But even if you did want to do that, you would need an external monitor, as this display is a 14-inch 1080p 144Hz screen. Another thing is it's also Pantone verified, which means you'll get accurate color reproduction, which I am personally a big fan of as a video editor. Now, 14 inches is 1.6 inches smaller than the typical 15.6 and is definitely noticeably smaller. If you like larger laptop displays, this may not be the one for you, but if you appreciate portability and build quality, I'd go with this one. Moving on to RAM and storage, it has 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, which is solid and enough for modern gaming, and 1 terabyte of SSD storage, which will be fast and absolutely enough for gaming and any other media you may want to store. This is also the only laptop that has built-in RGB, as the keyboard is backlit and can be whatever color you'd like. This laptop is also decently light at 3.6 pounds considering it's made of aluminum. And for ports, it has 2 USB-As, 1 USB-C, and a display port out. Nice. Overall, ASUS has always been a pretty reliable company when it comes to gaming laptops, which is why I understand the price of $1,000. Quality usually does cost more, even if it means you're getting less performance. Now, with all three laptops considered, which is truly the best laptop? I personally am going to have to go with the HP Victus, and here's why. For starters, it of course will give you solid performance. Not nearly as good as the GL66, but in truth, the difference isn't crazy. It also has pretty much everything I could ask for: a solid design, decent I/O, good gaming performance, and it comes from a reputable brand. It's also a great laptop for people who do work outside of just gaming, as it comes with 32 gigs of RAM and an SD card reader, so if you're into media creation, that is quite the lifesaver. In truth though, all three of these laptops are great choices. I sorted through dozens on different websites such as Amazon, Best Buy, and Newegg, and these three came out on top. What do you guys think? Which laptop is the best out of these three? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy the video, drop a like. Have any comments or questions, drop them below. And of course, if you enjoy the content you're seeing, I would really appreciate a sub. Thanks for watching. Peace out.